42 years old. I got to tell you that kind of increasingly rare. Might fall in your path. One of the things that's made that possible for me was 1987, when Lake Hazelton took a chance on me and said, we want you to come here and work. And if it hadn't been for that, nothing after that would have been the same. Totally transformed my life, my family's life, and everything that's happened since then has been a result of that one day. Before that, I kind of flitted around a little bit. I had 3 jobs before I thought about moving to Oldham County, and the arrival here was strictly dumb luck. You know, how many of you guys are transplants? Anybody here a transplant? Yeah. So I'm going to go through this, and when I get to the end of it, maybe you'll understand why I'm starting where I am. Some of you may not know me very well, so I'll talk a little bit about me, so you get a little bit of history. I did teach at Oldham County High School for 34 years, retiring just this past June 30th. I'm probably the least burned out teacher retiree you'll ever see. And the reason is because of what I taught. I was a band director. I wasn't an English teacher. I wasn't a science teacher. And because of that type of position, you make relationships with people that you just can't necessarily do in a regular classroom. If I were a student, 6th grade beginning flute teacher, for instance, and I watched them graduate from high school with a flute in their hands, that's a 7-year process in some of the most important years of that person's life. And not only does that have an impact on them, but it definitely has an impact on me. That's probably why when I left, I didn't feel the least bit tired. Could have gone another 10 years probably. And there's some other reasons for that. You'll notice this. But the other reason is because 80% of that career was spent where it was spent. This is a really, really special place. Not just the school, but this place is special. My dad was actually a teacher. Very briefly, he lasted 2 years. He was a vocal major. My mom was a nursing major. Both of them were Iowa Hawkeyes, so I was close to Minnesota for the early part of my life. Actually, Des Moines is where I actually started school. After teaching music for a couple of years, Dad was a J.C. Penney manager, so we got moved all over the place. It was almost like Methodist preachers. You got moved every 4 years to a new store. And we ended up in Melrose Park, Illinois, outside Chicago for a little while. Newport, Arkansas. You know where Newport, Arkansas is? Yeah, Jackson County, Arkansas. It's on the White River. Big honking catfish in that river, but soybeans and rice and skeeters. Yeah, a lot of that flat as a pancake, you know, about 90 miles straight west of Memphis. And then my parents flipped a coin and decided to move to Columbia, Tennessee. Columbia, Tennessee is about an hour south of Nashville. It's where I started 10th grade, and probably is another one of those defining moments in my life that made me realize what I needed to be, what I needed to do. Great band program there. And I actually got to go back there and teach, and a little bit more about that later. Those are probably the most 2 significant moves. Newport's where I started in band. A guy that was maybe a 2nd or 3rd year teacher at the time that taught about as long as I had before he quit. And then Columbia, Tennessee. I went to MTSU in Murfreesboro. Some of you know where that is. It's south of Nashville also. Back then it was a school that basically cleared out on the weekends. You know, you had 8,000 students on campus, and every Friday everybody go home unless you were in the marching band or on the football team. And you were at the stadium doing the halftime stuff. Now it's 26,000 students. It's huge. You know, you can go on the campus and recognize the buildings that you were in, but everything around it's like different. I really didn't have too many choices about college. I could have gone there or Tennessee Tech. I think I was a really solid B- average high school student. Band was it for me. You know, the other stuff I survived, and so I didn't have a lot of choices for colleges. But it turned out that MTSU was extremely significant. Number one, great musical opportunities, great instructors. And I met the most significant person in my life, my wife, Pat. We just celebrated 41 years together last month, which is pretty fantastic, especially when, if you know me at all, putting up with me for that long is a real achievement. She's been a part of my professional life the entire time. She's been my color guard instructor, my inspiration for just a lot of things. I wish she was here today to meet you all. The first job that I ever got was the one at Christian County High School in 1979, out of college. I actually taught in Kentucky for 2 years at the very beginning of my career. And it's probably the only one I really applied for. You know, I went and did the application thing and waited for them to call me for an interview. And I drove to Hopkinsville and had the interview. I got hired at 22 years old over a whole bunch of other people. I don't know how it happened. Really kind of weird. I was there for only 2 years. They were very eventful, though. I got married in 1980, halfway through that time, on the last day of marching band camp. Now, let me tell you how stupid that is. Your anniversary is during band camp from then on. At least you don't forget it when the color guard instructor's right there with you. You don't forget about it. But, man, I didn't realize that until the second year. It's like, why did I do that? Well, you know, it's the typical thing. You've got band camp, and then you've got a week, and then school opens. And when are you going to go to your home? You squeeze it all in. So we did it that way. After Christian County, it's always been friends in the band world that have come up and twisted my arm and said, "Hey, we got a proposal for you. Why don't you come over here and do this with us?" And the first of those moves was to go back home to Columbia to teach with Jim Stuppy. Some of you may recall Jim Stuppy. Jim was the band director that came here in 1987 with me. We came at the very same time. And the deal was kind of like, you know, I was leaving a job where I had my own program and stuff in Murfreesboro at that time. Columbia was one of those places where Jim had moved to. And I think we may have beaten them in a marching band contest in 79 or 80. I can't remember. It may have been Murray. We beat them, and Jim's like, "Ain't no way that boy's doing that again." I'd known Jim since 75, so he's not going to do that again. So we'll just go get him. So I ended up working in Columbia for 3 years. I could talk a lot about the wisdom of going home after you've left for a few years, because it's never the same, ever the same. And talk about the value of supportive administrators based on that decision to move there, and just how much home can really change over the course of just a few years. I'm going to leave it as an important experience that didn't cause me to change my career choice. That's basically what it came down to. Another friend, while I was finishing up at Columbia, called me and offered me the possibility of a position at Oakland High School in Murfreesboro. So I went back to where MTSU was, taught there for 3 years, and then dumb luck hit in 1987, and I met Blake Hastings, and the rest is kind of history. I worked here for 2 years, again with Jim Stuppy, before they opened South Oldham High School. And then Jim and I had to decide who was going to go where. And I'm glad that Jim took the shiny new toy. I'd already made up my mind about Oldham County High School about 6 months after I moved here. It didn't take me any time at all to figure out where I needed to be. I'm so grateful that Blake and Bob Arvin took a chance on me and offered me an opportunity to come to this wonderful place. I remember the Buckner Mall. Yeah. Right? You remember that? I remember the Thorntons being a blue concrete block thing at the T down at 393 and 146. I remember the first prison break we were driving our kids to school about 2 weeks into the school year, and we're driving over the interstate bridge, and my wife goes, "Why is that state trooper there with a shotgun?" We go a little further. There's another one. We got to the T, cars, and as far as you could see, about every 200 or 300 yards, there'd be a state trooper, a county policeman, or somebody with a shotgun out. And it's like she looks at me and says, "What in the have you brought me to?" I said, "It's all right, honey. You know, school's on lockdown, all that sort of stuff." I remember adding 400 or 500 kids a year to the school system here every single year. It seemed like we were looking at building another elementary school. Blake was a big part of that. 2,000 plus kids at OCHS. And the big thing about that is the amount of support that this community gives to schools. That was huge to me. And with one school, man, everybody was all in at OC. After 2 years of working at OC with a huge band program, I finished my master's degree while I was doing that, about 18 months at U of L. Don't know how I did that. We did 3 national appearances: Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 2 years. You remember that? At the end of that, you remember the bill? Yeah. Oh boy, pretty crazy. And we were pretty successful with the marching band too. I got to choose to stay at OCHS, and really both schools were essentially new at that. What followed from there is 32 years of collaboration, and music making, and great relationships and fun with really the best people on earth, I think. I ran into somebody the other day at I was getting some of my old band checkups, you know, and somebody was doing an echocardiogram on me. That was actually in the Color Guard in 1987 at the Fiesta Bowl. She was a lady there, you know, scoping me. I thought, holy cow, I hadn't seen you in 25 years or so. But she was one of those kids that Pat worked with at the very beginning. And those kind of relationships are something that you just can't top. And I don't know how you replicate them. This next part of this is not really about me. It's kind of my unvarnished opinion about some stuff, and I'll throw that out there. This county and Oldham County High School have changed really dramatically over the years that I've been around. And the education system in general has in many ways kind of driven that need to change. It's gotten a lot more complicated, and I, being an old guy, I kind of think it's sometimes unnecessarily complicated. And attempts to address a lot of areas outside the realm of what would be considered the classic discipline taught in school. In the band world, setting priorities and creating a culture that allows kids to succeed is probably the most important stuff. And those priorities are what kind of drives everything. Thankful that the core values of this community, in my estimation, are still very much as they were on my first day here, and I hope we can keep that going as we go into the future. I do believe the approach here really does try to remain focused on finding the best possible outcome for not only the kids in the schools, but the community at large. Value of open-minded deliberation. I'm not so sure that I was a very good open-minded deliberator when I was a young person. I was very impatient about things. That's why I had 4 jobs in the first 8 years of teaching. But I've learned over time that without that, you don't really end up in a situation where you're going through processes that are both thoughtful and inclusive. You got to have an open mind. You got to have your ears open, pay attention to all the points of view, and then try to make the best decision. That's really important right now. You think about some of the things our country's going through and some of the things we're going through locally. It's very, very important that when we're making sausage that we've got our ears open. The last part of this, and I know you guys got to get back to work, so I've got about a minute. This I'll just call a heaping helping of gratitude. How many of you think this is a special place to work, live, raise families? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There aren't enough words that I can put on paper or even express to tell you what living in Oldham County has meant for the last 34 years to my family, to myself. My wife, as I mentioned, been part of my career choice from the beginning. She actually works in sales tax for Young Brands as a department lead. She has people under her that, you know, the minions that do the entries and stuff, and she signs off on stuff. She told me she would support me. I told her in February I was going to pull the plug on this career, but she has actually been doing that all along. Both of my now adult children are graduates of this school system in Oldham County. They are both successful. You know, as a parent, you did right when your kids absolutely refuse to move home after they graduate from college, regardless of their financial situation. Absolutely refuse. We're not coming home. We're on our own. We're going to do this. And they have a great, they got that, not from dad and mom. Oh, well, maybe a little bit. Maybe we made the environment such that they felt compelled to do it. But at the same time, they learned some things through experiences here in Oldham County. Both of them went all the way through the school system. And that's invaluable. They even found jobs in their major field when they got out of college. Yeah, pretty amazing. Right out of college, 8 semesters each. You know, one of them was a music industry major that worked for a publisher for about 6 years and then changed course a little bit. She's now a chef. The other one is certified to fly 757. She works for FedEx and writes training manuals for changes in cockpit stuff. It's way above my head. You know, I was just lucky enough a few years ago, they opened up a new sim lab. There were these big honking things on stilts that you could get in. They had a family day and she invited us down. First thing she did was get us an hour in the sim. So I got to land a 757 in the sim. I didn't crash it. And the other thing she did was take us on, take us on a first flight. I'd never flown with her before. Her husband has a permanent Cessna, and we took a little flight to Sykeston, Missouri, and did the throw rolls at Lambert's. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. That was apparently a check ride thing that they did from TSU to Sykeston. Personally, my professional life would not have been the same if 1987 hadn't happened the way it did. When you're laser focused, and I mentioned this earlier, when you're laser focused on your job, a lot of stuff just kind of flies by you, and your head's down and you're doing it, and you don't have time to reflect on much of anything. But I've had a little bit of time to do that. The high regard for this county and the schools in general have paved the way for me in assuming state leadership roles with KMEA, Kentucky Music Educators Association, including being the president of the association for 2 years. That gets you noticed by your colleagues in the state. There's a whole lot of people that direct bands in Kentucky. I have no idea who they are, but they all know who I am. And it's because of that relationship. And that's because of this place. Understanding the value of having a solid band program as part of a school culture by every administrator that I've had here. Every single one understood that culture. That creates a level of trust and consistency that just does not happen every place. Special place. Guidance counselors that made sure that kids could be in band, even though they wanted to be the AP whiz-bang scholars of all time and managed to graduate with a horn in their hands. Those guys are true professionals. Keep kids first. And the best parent support group on the planet, probably. I mean, there's a lot of people that can probably say that about their parent support groups, but 34 years of just amazing collaboration with parents, and they lift their kids up and give them the opportunities. They're the ones that pay the bills. They're the ones that raise the money. They're the ones that move the equipment or fix the uniforms and all that sort of stuff. Just an amazing group of people. And I'm sure that is still continuing to this day. The community's provided so many things to me over the years that I've been here. Support of all kinds, recognitions, honors, audiences, and most importantly, appreciation. I've been recognized at the state and national level. My alma mater's recognized me a couple of times at MTSU, once in '99 and once 20 years later, actually, as a distinguished alumnus. They recognize me because the kids here make me look like a genius. If you can get all your kids in a band to read off the same sheet of music that you are, they can make you look like a genius. And that's really the gig. a couple of years ago, I was honored to be named Grand Marshal for the Oldham County Day Parade. And I got to tell you, it was in this room, the pancake breakfast in this room every year. The run up for that thing was just mind blowing to me. First of all, the honor was amazing. I'm just a band director, but the honor was amazing. And the whole run up was a big deal. You know, for 30 years, I just kind of worried about getting the band down the street without getting anybody hurt or hurting the audience, you know, and that this was so much more than that. And it was just another one of a long series of personal Oldham County experiences that have left a mark on me, indelible mark. But it might have been the most significant in terms of my connection to this place. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I came to Oldham County from a lot of places. Back then, I was from Tennessee, because so much of my life up to that point had been rooted in Tennessee. Not anymore. When people ask me today where I'm from, it's automatic. I'm from Oldham County. That's what happens to you here. And I imagine a lot of you guys can relate to that. You know, it's when that kind of thing happens to you, you realize where home really is. And I'm going to close by asking all of you to think on and try to remember what makes this your special place to be, and do everything you can. Yes, I will take questions.
Yeah, wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to ask questions.
I answered mine.
There you go.
Yes, the community band is still alive and well. We had a meeting in early May, late April, I can't remember which. I said, everybody meet me at the band room in high school. They all showed up on a Tuesday night, which is a regular rehearsal night. And 40 of them there about. Just a room full of people. And we hadn't played since we got thrown out of the rehearsal space back in March of 2020. Not a note. And we're about 5 minutes in. I'm telling them I'm retiring from my position as band director and all this stuff. And Tom Budniak, one of the trombone players, raises his hand and says, when are we going to vote on whether we start next week or not? I said, okay, who doesn't want to start next week? No hands went up. I said, we're on. You know, and we've been on ever since. We've been able to play at the Memorial Day service here on the square. We played a couple of other times since then. We're working on a concert schedule. We've got some 4 quarters of the year. That's a fantastic group, and I'm glad I'm going to get a little bit more time to spend on that. And I've already talked myself out of one job. You know, people had twisted my arm again. I've already talked myself out of one of those, but I hope to play a lot. I hope to eventually get back and help individual kids that need it with their stuff. And if these guys here decide that they want me to come and listen to them do the thing, then I'm happy to do that. But right now, I'm trying to figure out what the next thing is. The next thing has always found me somehow, and it'll do it again. That's the way I'll look at it. Thanks.
So, as a tradition, Mr. Rogers, the Rotary Club gives in honor of you to our effort to eradicate polio. So that will be done in your honor. So thank you. All right. Thank you all very much. We got to pull a number out so we can get a winner of the 50-50. I heard a couple weeks ago we were over $190. So this one could be a good one. Blaine has so the wheel is being repaired. There was some nut stripped out of it. So he has on his phone an app already chosen.
Yes, indeed. There is an app for everything. And you know, you say, I'm sure the next thing will find you. So I'll just go ahead and get into what it was I think he'd be an outstanding Rotarian. Since I'm already being flanked by the Sergeant at Arms, I will say, you know, as a fellow minister, Minnesotan, we always have this friendly rivalry with Iowa. So, you know, the best thing that ever has come out of Iowa, right? I-35. I'm sure I'm up to at least $5 by now. All right, the last three digits, 365. Who's got?
Bob Martin. Bob, is that you?
365. No, he left his over here.
Was it Rosemary? She's left too. Her tickets.
Okay. All right, how about 352?
All right, Billy Mack.
Who has it? Billy. Hey. Okay. So I know you can't see this on my phone, but it is a wheel and it does sound. It does. Can you verify that? Yes. So I'm gonna have you punch that wheel. I like it though.
So we'll talk to Josh and get you the money and we'll let everybody know how much that was.
Sounds like $190. And with that, remember to serve to change lives. Oh God,
money I'm collecting because I'm doing a really good job.